Welcome to another Watchalong. I'm your host, Kellerman, and Donald Trump signed a bunch of new executive orders and answered a bunch of press questions, and I thought it'd be more interesting for you if we watch it together. So let's do it. Oh. Normally they get things set up before they start live streaming, but I guess maybe time was short. Oh!
Thank you very much, everybody. We have a lot of big signings, good signings, one in particular which we'll save for the end. And I'll ask Will
a special. Stay till the end to see which special executive order he's signing.
First, for your review, we have 56 sub-cabinet level appointments. This includes probably most notably 7 ambassador appointments. Those will be the first ambassadors, I believe, that you've transmitted to the Senate.
Okay. And they're very good.
Okay. Starting off with the boring ones.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Second, we have acting designations.
Probably very impactful.
We're actually designating Doug Collins to be the acting leader of both the Office of Special Counsel and the Office of Government Ethics.
You know Doug, everybody, I think?
Okay.
He was in charge of the fake impeachment hearings, remember? That I won very conclusively. Fake charges by the radical left Democrats. Okay.
He won that court case, but he didn't
Next,
prove
sir,
that it was
the Federal
like a fake
Executive
charge.
Institute is a program that was set up during the Johnson administration to train senior-level government bureaucrats. As you've identified repeatedly in the last few years, the senior levels of our federal government are not adequately serving as stewards of taxpayer dollars, so we're recommending zeroing out that program effectively.
We're actually getting rid of a few programs that are just a waste. Just really a waste.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have an executive order relating to the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. As you've repeatedly identified, the way that this act has been enforced over the years has been devastating to American business opportunities and business competitiveness abroad. We are essentially ordering the Department of Justice to use its prosecutorial discretion in a way to ameliorate the negative effects of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, to allow Americans to do business abroad, and to allow our foreign partners to do business with Americans without fearing unjust prosecution.
And for those of you that know this, it turned out to be, it sounds good on paper, but in practicality, it's a disaster. It means that if an American goes over to a foreign country and starts doing business over there legally, legitimately, or otherwise, it's almost a guaranteed investigation, indictment, and nobody wants to do business with the Americans because of it. Nobody wants to do business. They say, look, we can deal with China. They can do whatever they want. We can deal with Russia. We can deal with anybody. And we have a normal life. You deal with America, the FBI gets over there. They don't investigate death and murders on the street in New York and Los Angeles. They go over and investigate a business guy trying to do business. So it made it very, very hard from a practical standpoint to make deals. They want to deal with the Americans.
There you go. For all the people on the left who are complaining about this executive order,
American, every time
there's your
an
explanation.
American makes a phone call to somebody in a different country, it's a disaster for this country. And I guess it was a Jimmy Carter concept, and it sounds so good, but it's so bad. It hurts the country, and many, many deals are unable to be made because of it. Nobody wants to do business.
I mean, I really
like
just have to kind of take his word for it.
They go into jail. So we'll sign this, and it takes courage to sign it because you only get bad publicity when you sign it. It sounds so nice. The title is so lovely, but it's an absolutely horror show for America. So we're signing it because that's what we have to do to make it good.
Sounded like a reasonable explanation to me. I'm guessing it will also get rid of some protections that were beneficial.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next, this is an executive order relating to the use of paper straws. As you've consistently identified, nobody really likes paper straws.
Number one
There's Chucklehead.
trending. Can you believe it? A paper straw. It was number one trending for 3 days or something.
The environmental impact of plastic straws versus paper straws is entirely unclear. This has cost both the government and private industry an absolute ton of money and left consumers all over the country wildly dissatisfied with their straws. So we're asking aspects of the federal
We need
government,
better
federal
straw
departments
policy.
and agencies to look at their existing procurement processes, and we're asking your Domestic Policy Council to look holistically at this issue to address it, and it really is something that affects ordinary Americans in their everyday lives.
We're going back to plastic straws. These things don't work. I've had them many times, and on occasion they break.
They do suck.
explode.
To be clear, paper
If
straws
something's
suck.
hot, they don't last very long, like a matter of minutes, sometimes a matter of seconds. It's a ridiculous situation. So we're going back to plastic straws. I think it's okay.
Something tells me there's more in this executive order than just plastic straws, but hey,
And I don't think that
I once read that the
plastic's
plastic
gonna
straw
affect
thing
the
was like a
shark
whole,
very
not a
much
hoax
as they're
exactly,
eating-
but
as they're munching their
blown
way
out of
through the
proportion.
ocean. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
There's so many
Next,
other
we
plastic
have,
things
a full
in
and
abundance.
unconditional pardon for former Governor Rod Blagojevich of the state of Illinois.
Good. It's my honor to do it. I've watched him. He was set up by a lot of bad people, some of the same people that I had to deal with. He wasn't quite as successful, but he had somebody that saw what was going on. I didn't know him other than I believe he was on The Apprentice for a little while. He was just a very nice person. He had a fantastic wife. She fought like hell to get him out. He was given a sentence of like 18 years. And there was a sort of a terrible injustice. They just were after him. They go after a lot of people. These are bad people on the other side. So I think he's just a very fine person. And this shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't have happened to him. And let him have a normal life and let him go out and do what he has to do. So I'm signing this as a full pardon. Rod Blagojevich.
Mr. President, are you considering him for ambassador to Serbia?
No, but I would. I mean, he's now cleaner than anybody in this room. He got a pardon. He's cleaner than anybody in the room. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next, in 2018, you imposed ad valorem duties, tariffs on imports of steel at a 25% rate. Since that time, a large number of exclusions and exceptions to that tariff rule have been implemented. Because of the damage to the United States steel industry that those exceptions and exclusions have imposed, we're now, this order would reimpose that 25% ad valorem tariff rate on imports of steel, and it's presented for your signature now.
Okay. Do you understand what that means?
Tell us, Trump.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. This is the beginning.
Yeah, the steel stuff is pretty
making
wild.
America rich again.
There's been a lot of stuff going on with steel
Mr. Secretary,
companies.
do you have anything to say? As you know, Howard is Secretary of Commerce, doing a fantastic job. And what do you have to say about it?
This guy
So when
giggling
you
over here is our
imposed,
new Secretary of Commerce?
The tariffs, the first time, you
Okay.
added 120,000 jobs. And since that time, it's been picked away and nicked away and excluded away, and we've lost 107,000 jobs. And remember, these aren't just general jobs. These are steel workers in America, and now you're going to bring them back. You're going to bring those 120,000 jobs back to America. You are the president who's standing up for the American steel worker, and I am just tremendously impressed and delighted to stand next to you.
Mr. President, could you
So
We'll see.
let me just
Could be.
make a statement. And essentially
Economists
this
are
is
pretty
another
divided
way
on
of
whether or
saying
not these
we're
sorts of things are good.
doing a 25%
Obviously.
tariff on
Sort of
steel and
a
aluminum.
partisan issue.
So the failed American trade policies have led our once incredible United States steel and aluminum industries, once incredible, they're not now, but they're not bad. I saved them because of my first term, totally saved them. If I didn't do what I did, I put massive tariffs, not the highest level, but pretty massive tariffs. We got We took in a lot of money and we took in a lot of jobs. But we were being pummeled by both friend and foe alike. Our nation requires steel and aluminum to be made in America, not in foreign lands. We need to create, in order to protect our country's future, a resurgence of U.S. manufacturing and production, the likes of which has not been seen for many decades. It's time for our great industries to come back to America. I want them back to America. This is the first of many, and you know what I mean by that. We're going to be doing others on other subjects, topics. Protecting our steel and aluminum industries is a must, and today I'm simplifying our tariffs on steel and aluminum so that everyone can understand exactly what it means. It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions. And that's all countries, no matter where it comes from, all countries. If made in the United States, however, United States of America, there is no tariff, zero. So if it's made in the United States, there is no tariff. All you have to do is make it in the United States. We don't need it from another country. As an example, Canada, if we make it in the United States, we don't need it.
I mean, we do import those things, so
that's why
I don't know
Canada
if we
should be our 51st
just
state.
completely don't know.
We'll bring back industries.
Stop with the 51st state thing.
And
That's
we'll make American
ridiculous.
industry great again. So essentially, we're putting on a 25% tariff without exception.
Hilarious.
On all aluminum and all steel.
Is he just trolling Canada?
And it's going to mean a lot of businesses are going to be opening in the United States. Now, we're going to be meeting over the next 4-week period, maybe on a weekly basis, and maybe we'll do a couple of them at different times and maybe together. But we'll be talking about other subjects like cars. We'll be talking about drugs and pharmaceuticals. We'll be discussing chips, and we're going to be doing some other things in addition to that, all which will bring in a lot of jobs into our country. Cars is going to be a very big one and a very important one. And America is going to be stronger than it ever was before. Okay? So are you finished with everything, I think?
We have aluminum still to sign.
Okay,
here,
let's
sir.
go.
So with respect to aluminum similarly to steel, since
Interesting.
2018, a large number of exceptions and exemptions have been added into the law. This eliminates all of those and also increases the ad valorem tariff rate from 10 to 25%.
Mostly the last part is the most important, right? Would you say?
Totally.
So basically, this is aluminum, the same thing, no exceptions, no nothing, and it's going to bring business back and may go higher. I mean, frankly, it may go higher, and we're going to also be talking about We're going to be talking about things over the next 3 weeks that I think will be amazing for our country, amazing for our jobs, and will bring us to a new level of prosperity.
Really would.
And I think, frankly, our allies and our enemies all over the world expected this. They really expected it for years. They really expected it sometime during the Biden administration, but they didn't do anything. As you know, I put tariffs on China. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars with those tariffs, and Biden wasn't able to get them out. He tried to, but it was too much money. He couldn't do it. And we're going to be doing a very concise and, very, it's going to be good. And I don't think if done properly, and we're going to try and do that, we don't want it to hurt other countries, but they've been taking advantage of us for years and years and years, and they've charged us tariffs. Most of them have charged us, almost everyone, I would say almost without exception.
Definitely.
They've charged us and we haven't charged them. And it's time to be reciprocal. So
economists are torn on this also, whether or not
they charge us,
we pay for those tariffs or the foreign country does.
If they're at 10, we're at 10, and if they're much higher than 25, that's what we are too. So that's having to do with everything. That's not just steel and aluminum, but we'll be discussing that over the next couple of weeks. But we will be looking at chips, and we will be looking at cars, and we're going to be looking at pharmaceuticals, and there'll be a couple of other things also in addition. That'll be
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. President, U.S. steel workers have said that they support this move. But what would you say to American consumers who are worried that prices...
That they do support this move?
U.S. steelmakers.
I love the steel makers. That's good.
Well, what do you say
Of course
to
they,
American
because they want to save their businesses. U.S. Steel will now be a very valuable company. Anybody that makes steel is going to be great. Anybody that works in big steel is going to be very happy.
What do you say to consumers who are worried about prices, sir?
Oh, I don't think you're going to. No, you're going to ultimately have a price reduction because they're going to make their steel here. There's not going to be any tariff. These foreign companies will move to the United States, will make their steel and aluminum in the United States. Ultimately, it'll be cheaper. But we'll also have jobs. Many, many more jobs.
Sir, what are you looking at in terms of tariffs on cars and chips?
Well, we're looking at numbers, and we'll be coming up with a number. But
I think the problem is
we've
that
made some of the
that
finest
is
cars in the
only
world, and
one
some
of a
companies
few
prohibit us from
possible
selling those
outcomes,
cars
and
in
not
their
a
countries. But
certain
they sell
outcome.
us cars. They send cars to us, and we don't do that. We charge nothing or 2.5%, and they'll be charging 100%. They'll be charging much more than that if you look at some of them. So I think those days are over. But we'll be announcing on other things such as cars. We got some other things we'll be doing. But the biggest thing is reciprocal. We want tariffs to be fair. If they charge us, we charge them.
Tomorrow, the reciprocal tariffs?
We'll be doing reciprocal over the next, I would say, 2 days, don't you think? 2 days, yeah, maybe.
Wow.
Mr. President, the Australian Prime Minister
Moving right along.
said that you are considering an exemption from Australia on steel. Is that correct? And why?
I just spoke to him, very fine man, and he has a surplus. I mean, we have a surplus with Australia, one of the few. And the reason is they buy a lot of airplanes. They are rather far away, and they need lots of airplanes. And we actually have a surplus. It's one of the only countries which we do. And I told him that that's something that we will give great consideration to.
And would you consider one for the UK?
He did just a minute ago say
We
that
have
this
a
is
huge
without
deficit
exception,
in the
but I
UK.
guess
Big difference.
You don't have a deficit.
maybe they'll make an exception.
That country also going to be.
We have a deficit with a little deficit with Argentina. We almost with every country, but Australia, because of the airplanes, they buy a lot of airplanes. There's a little bit of a surplus.
Mr. President, if other countries retaliate,
I don't mind.
What is your plan for example, farmers? Last term, you
Well,
Don't
the
give a
farmers
shit.
Are going to be helped greatly. Yeah, the farmers are going to be helped greatly because they're not going to be dumping everything into our country. This will be a great bill for farmers. And in terms of retaliation, if they retaliate, it's, as I said, it's reciprocal. So if they raise it a little bit, then we raise it automatically. So I don't think it helps for them to retaliate. But also remember this, they can't really retaliate because we're the piggy bank. We're the piggy bank. But if we don't do this, we won't be the piggy bank for long. We won't be much of a country.
Mr. President, you see that report, sir, that Hamas was going to stop releasing Israeli hostages, and what was your reaction?
I think it's terrible. Look, I looked at the hostages that came in, and they're emaciated. It looked like something out of the 1930s. It's an absolute disgrace. And I think they saw the way the world viewed it, and they're looking for a reason not to send more because they're all. You take a look at that. It looks like it was a concentration camp, which essentially it was. It looks like they came out of the Holocaust. And what a sad thing. One of them was a young man, good-looking guy, a little bit heavier than perhaps he could have been, and now he looks like he's not even recognizable. Not even recognizable.
Is ceasefire beyond risk of falling apart?
Look, I can tell you that those people have been badly hurt, both mentally and physically. I'm talking about the young women that came out also previously. And I think one of the reasons they're doing this is because they're probably sending the best. What you see is probably the best because they want to send people that look at least healthy. And that's not healthy. These people have been badly hurt. They've been interviewed by our representatives. They've been interviewed by Israeli representatives, and they're really hurting. They are really hurting.
They were hostages.
Mentally and physically. And I think Hamas is looking at that and saying, well, it's not going to get much better than that because they probably send out their best as a representative, and they've got more to send out, and they probably feel that they can't do that because it's not going to make them look very good.
Is the ceasefire now over? Does it delay that, sir? Should the ceasefire then be off?
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that because that's Israel's decision, but as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
That's
And I don't
not the
think they're gonna do
ceasefire
it.
agreement.
I think a lot of them are dead. I think a lot of the hostages are dead. I think
Probably a
it's
good guess.
It's a great human tragedy. What's happened? How people can be.
I mean, look, if this
that
expedites the
mean to
hostages being
do.
let
The one
free, then that's
guy
great. But
was
if it
laughing when
if instead it turns into
when a
all hell
hostage-
breaking
he
loose
thought
this
his
weekend,
family was alive.
well, that's
Found
not
out the family
good.
was dead, and his captor, so to speak, started laughing because he thought it was so funny. You know, this is a different group of people. No, I would say Saturday at 12. We want them all back. I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it, but from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not here, all hell is going to break out.
Mr. President,
If that happens, this will be a chilling video in the
Were to
future.
develop it. What did you mean by that? And under what
We've spoken to a lot of Palestinians. They would love to leave Gaza if they